Recording in progress.
Through the chair, we're ready to begin.
Hello, welcome to this regular meeting of the Planning Commission this Tuesday evening, March 10th. I now call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heleva, could you please call the roll?
Chair Patel.
Here.
Vice Chair Clafter.
Here.
Commissioner Bush. And Commissioner Williams.
Here.
And I will note that Commissioner Shamkul is absent for an excused attendance at the Planning Commissioners Academy. So good evening and welcome. We are excited to be here in person with options for virtual participation. Thank you for your cooperation and for helping us maintain an efficient and accessible meeting environment. There are several ways to participate. For those attending in person, complete a yellow request to speak slip and hand it to the clerk. If participating remotely, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for each specific item. For members of the public watching on YouTube who wish to provide live public comment, please note that you must join the meeting through the Zoom webinar using the access information listed on the agenda. And finally, we welcome speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. As such, speakers must stay on topic if speaking to a particular agenda item. If speakers fail to follow these rules, they will be warned, and if they continue to disregard our rules, their opportunity to speak will be ended. Next on our agenda is the public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda tonight may address the Planning Commission at this time. State law prevents council from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. This public comment section is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, that is subject to the Commission's discretion and can be extended if the Commission wishes to do so. If needed, an opportunity for additional public comment may also be provided later in the agenda. If you wish to provide a comment on any item that is not on the agenda, please turn in your speaker slip now or raise your hand if participating virtually over Zoom. Heleva, do we have any items for general public comment?
Through the chair, there is no public commenters.
Okay, great. I will go ahead and close the general public comment period. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing. 230 South El Camino Real, a new mixed-use development. We will start with the staff presentation and public comments. Members of the public are given 2 to 3 minutes to speak, depending on the number of speakers. The applicant may also be given 5 minutes at the end to respond to the public comments. Once the public hearing is closed, the chair may ask staff to respond to any public comments, and the commission will ask clarifying questions, deliberate, and render a decision. If a decision is made tonight, the decision of the Planning Commission can be appealed to the City Council within 10 calendar days. And with that, may we have the staff presentation?
Thank you, Chair Patel. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Simin Zakovan, Associate Planner and Staff Planner, presenting this item before you this evening, which is a public hearing for 230 South El Camino Real, Mixed-Use Development, Planning Application 2025-038. Before starting the presentation, I would like to also add that we are joined here via Zoom by Ryan Bernmeyer, Associate Engineer with Public Works. Here is a quick overview of tonight's presentation. Beginning with the project history, the applicant submitted a preliminary application under Senate Bill 330 on April 9, 2025, and then they held a neighborhood meeting on April 10, 2025, and followed their neighborhood meeting, they filed a formal planning application on April 30th, 2025. This map shows the project location outlined in red. The site is located at the northwest corner of East 3rd Avenue and South El Camino Real, and it is outlined in red. And also the downtown Caltrain station is marked here, and the site is within half a mile of this Caltrain station. Here is a more zoomed in 3D view of the site, and the site is bordered by Arroyo Court to the north, El Camino Real to the east, East 3rd Avenue to the south, and an existing multifamily 12-story building to the west. The site is currently vacant, but previously was developed with a gas station, which was removed in 2014. In 2020, County of San Mateo Health Department issued a letter stating that all matters related to site cleanups associated with the formal gas station have been addressed and completed. The site is approximately 0.26 acre. It has a general plan land use designation of mixed use high, and it is zoned for executive office with high density multifamily residential overlay. The site is also within downtown area plan and West El Camino sub area. And here is the proposed building. The project is a 5-story mixed-use building with ground floor commercial and parking spaces. The upper floors are entirely residential with a total of 28 units. A total of 15% of the units or 4 units are designated as affordable for moderate income. And here is an overview of the site plan with ground floor plan. The driveway access is off of 3rd Avenue and 16 parking spaces are provided on ground floor. And this includes a fully automated mechanical parking, which accommodates up to 11 full-size or standard-size vehicles. Commercial space is outlined here in red. It's located on the corner of Arroyo Court and South El Camino Real, and the residential lobby is on the other side of the building. The project proposes to remove 5 heritage trees and proposes to install 10 new trees. This chart shows some more details for how the 28 units are broken down. Of the 28 units, 24 will be market rate and 4 will be affordable for moderate income. And the project provides a mix of studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom. And here is a list of entitlements and permits that the project requires. Site plan and architectural review for mixed-use development of the site development planning application for removal of heritage trees, and vesting tentative map for merging 3 lots and creating condominium units. So this was a quick overview of the project. Now I'll dive into analysis of the various code and policies that apply to the project, and I'll cover both local policies and plans as well as the state laws. Beginning with the general plan, the project was reviewed under its mixed-use high zoning designation, land use designation, which sets the density, building height, and floor area ratio standards. The project or the density for the site is a maximum of 130 dwelling unit per acre per the general plan, and the project proposes 107 dwelling unit per acre, which is within the range of the general plan. All other development standards as shown on this table and as set by the general plan are met by the project. And here is a summary of the development standards set by the site's zoning designation. The applicant is requesting to modify and reduce all setback standards under the state density bonus law, which I will cover shortly in the next slide. The setbacks for E2 zoning preclude the development of the site at the density that the general plan allows and the applicant is proposing, so therefore they are requesting to reduce the setback standard. Another modification or waiver that the applicant is requesting is modifying the loading area and loading size. Due to the size of the site, the applicant is requesting to provide the loading on the street rather than on site. However, the project meets all other development standards listed on this table. Moving on to the state laws, the applicant is proposing to use the provision of state density bonus law with the 15% units for moderate income category. The project is eligible for 10% density increase, reduced parking standards, 1 concession, and unlimited waivers. Since the proposed density is within the range of the general plan density, the applicant is not requesting to increase the density, nor they're asking any concession, but they have requested several waivers, which I discussed a couple of them under zoning, and I will mention the rest of them under design review. And this slide summarizes the waivers for this project. This includes waiver waiving zoning code standards related to landscape buffer, loading area, and setbacks, as I mentioned before, as well as various waivers to design or objective design standards, which I will cover under design review. Other housing laws that are applicable to the project include Housing Crisis Act. Under SB 330, the project vests development standards and fee structure at the time that the preliminary application was submitted. Housing Accountability Act. Under HAA, or the HAA limits a local agency ability to deny, reduce the density, or render the housing project infeasible if objective standards are met, and in this case, objective standards are met with the approval of the waivers. And lastly, AB 2097, which removes minimum parking standard for projects within half a mile of Caltrain station or major transit stops. Even though this project is within half a mile of major transit stop, the applicant is voluntarily providing 16 parking spaces. The project falls under the downtown area plan, and it's within the El Camino or West El Camino sub-area. The downtown area plan establishes framework and policies for guiding developments within the downtown area, and this project supports the goals and policies of the downtown area by providing a mixed-use development and providing new housing opportunities. The project is also to cities below market rate program, which is aligns closely with the state density bonus law. And in accordance with this program, the applicant is providing 4 BMR units or below market rate units for moderate income. And next is objective design standards, which I will cover under design review. And also the project includes public right-of-way improvements in accordance with the pedestrian master plan and bicycle master plan. So now we are moving to design review. Looking at a few renderings, here is a view from corner of 3rd Avenue and El Camino. Downtown area plan requires buildings to have Spanish colonial revival architectural style. However, the applicant is requesting waiver to provide, as you see here, a more contemporary and modern building. The project meets ODS or objective design standards in terms of massing and wall articulation. On ground floor, commercial area is provided and the residential lobby is located, which emphasizes the street active frontage of El Camino, and the canopy elements above these spaces further enhances a more pedestrian scale development. One of the downtown policy identifies this specific intersection as a primary entry corridor connecting to downtown core and calls for new development at this intersection to provide a strong architectural statement. And the applicant has provided a window curtain wall tower element to help visually highlight this intersection in line with this policy. And here is a view from 3rd Avenue. Units facing 3rd Avenue include balconies. Also here you see the parking access off of 3rd Avenue. Some of the other design standards that the applicant requesting waiver from are specifically related to this view are screening transformer, utility room doors facing primary street, and providing active frontage along 3rd Avenue. And here is the building from El Camino and Arroyo Court. I just want to mention that effort has been made to define base, body, and top for the building by providing different materials on the first and last floor, even though they don't go across the whole facade. And here is the elevation from 3rd Avenue. Primary exterior materials include cement plaster, metal panels, and glass window wall at the corner of El Camino and 3rd Avenue. Here is the elevation from El Camino. and the elevation from Arroyo Court. And here are the El Camino and 3rd Avenue elevations that shows the building scale in comparison with the existing adjacent residential buildings. Moving on to transportation analysis, the project is screened out of vehicle miles traveled analysis required by the California Environmental Quality Act because the project is within half a mile of major transit stop. For compliance with the city's adopted transportation impact analysis policy, a trip generation was prepared by the applicant's consultant that shows the project will result in net new trips of 176 daily trips. However, staff has determined that the project peak hour trip are minimal and will not have impact on the roadway system, and therefore no further analysis was required. Also, I want to add that the project will provide significant sidewalk improvements in accordance with the pedestrian master improvement plan on all street tree frontages. The project is also required to implement a transportation demand management plan for a minimum of 25% trip reduction under City and County Association of Government regional requirements. Some of these measures include TDM coordinator, transit or rideshare passes, and reduced parking, which will result in 26% trip reduction. And here is a summary of the estimated impact fees for the project. Lastly, the project was reviewed in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and it has been determined that the project meets all criteria for Class 32 infill development project exemption. And therefore, the project is exempt from CEQA and will not have any significant effect on the environment. In regards to public comments, 11 neighbors attended the neighborhood meeting that the applicant held in April 2025, and they made comments related to parking, unit sizes, and lack of on-site amenities. For tonight's meeting, staff has completed all standard noticing procedures listed on the slide. And I also want to add that after publishing the agenda, we have received 4 comment letter which has been shared with the commissioners. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the site plan and architectural review, site development planning application, and vesting tentative map for the construction of a new mixed-use building located at 230 South El Camino Real, and find that the project is categorically exempt from California Environmental Quality Act based on the findings for approval and subject to the conditions of approval. This concludes the staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions. And also the applicant is here and will be providing a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and have the applicant presentation.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Evan Sokolowski with ArchTech. We are the architects and designers on the project, and actually have been working on this project with Alex for quite a few years. Really excited to be in front of you again tonight, and Chair Patel, again to be in front of you with a project that actually has more housing than commercial or retail. It's not always that I get up here and have a chance to do that with you, so excited to be here today. Worked closely with Seaman throughout the process. She gave such a good presentation. I'm going to try and go quickly through ours just to highlight some of the things. Again, she already talked about the site and the location, proximity to transit. We think it's a really important site in the city. As you can see, this is a view of the existing project as it is with the vacant lot. We also shared what it used to be, which was a service station, a significantly different impact on the neighborhood and the city and the trips that were generated. So we think there's a lot of improvements that are being done with this new project. Simon provided some of the history. The history that she shared actually is just in reference to this current project, but we started this project, and Alex actually started this project even before ArcTech got involved, back before 2014, back with the old zoning and old designations, trying to initially get a residential project that was not able to be done. We came back with a commercial project that changes in zoning and parking requirements weren't allowing us to get fully entitled, and it took us a while. And between San Mateo's choice to adopt the Measure T and increase densities, as well as the state's AB 2097, which allowed us to reduce parking standards, it allowed us to come back and have this project today. So we're really excited. It's also one of the earlier projects to go through with the staff on the new general plan standards and objective design standards. We were excited to do that, and staff has been very good to work with in the process. I think there's been a little bit of a learning curve on both sides as we've gone through this. So excited to be here tonight. I think Simon addressed a lot of these. This is an important corner to the city. It's been either a service station or vacant since 2014. We do want to complete that gateway corner tonight, and that we think this mixed-use project is a good way of doing that and completing finally that open corner that we've been looking at for quite a while. It is mixed use, very small amount of commercial retail on the first floor. It's really primarily a multifamily residential complex. We do have a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, which is always important to have those larger units involved. One of the other things is the context that it's within. Is there are different buildings around it. El Camino is a very varied street as far as architecture, even just down the street with the library, some of the other buildings, the towers behind us, lots of different styles of architecture. Obviously, Casa Baywood is more traditional. As Simon mentioned, we moved to a more contemporary style that we felt fit within the context, but also respected that historic style that's adjacent to us without conflicting with it. Simon addressed this pretty quickly. Really, we have our main entry for the residential lobby on 3rd Avenue, focused on the secondary street, retails off El Camino. We are providing as many parking spaces as we can on site. Obviously, it's a very small site, so through the utilization of a mechanical, fully automated parking system, we're able to get up to 16 parking spaces on site, which again is well above what's required. Since there aren't any requirements, we felt it was important to the neighborhood as well as important to these units to provide as much parking as we could. Just going up, the 4 floors above are all dedicated to residential. Basically the same units. We have our 4 BMR units distributed throughout all 4 floors, so they respond to the city's needs both for unit mix as well as location. So they are a variety of studios, 1s and 2s, as was highlighted on that. Just going through, some of them have balconies integrated, some do not. The corner units are some of the larger units with a prime, glass corner. You've already seen the renderings. This is really that kind of corner tower element. What we began to develop and working within the objective design standards is interpreting that corner element, treating this. The ground floor is actually significantly higher. That was both to create a strong base as well as to provide the height we needed for that mechanical parking. So it creates a nice feel to that base, a strong base, canopy at the corner with the corner entry to the residential stepped back to highlight that, with the glass tower actually popping above. And then, as was mentioned, kind of the wrapping of a combination of the plaster and metal panel, creating a variety of punched openings, balconies as you go around the building with additional definition of the base. This shows a little bit more, again, from, you saw this image already. This has the view kind of towards Arroyo Court. That shows the primary retail commercial element that wraps the corner, allowing for a very active frontage, as much activity as we could apply while still providing the back end of this being our service function for the parking itself. One of the elements that was important, and we worked closely with Simon on, is our screening both of the parking as well as the area that we have. There's a decorative laser cut fence that wraps the building, wraps the site on the back. It provides a level of screening looking into that parking. We also have an overhead coiling door. You can see that was an important feature integrated into the building to screen the parking additionally from the public. Just wanted to go through that really quickly. Simon did a great job of presenting it already. I will be available for questions if you need now, or can come back up.
Thank you so much. Do any of my fellow commissioners have questions?
Yes,
Commissioner Williams, please.
as usual, I always want to clarify things. Let's see. Thanks for the presentations. I appreciate that. A couple things. Sometimes I just like, details catch my attention. And so one thing I was curious about was there was a comment about merging 3 lots. Is that was already done, or is that part of this project? Was that done as a lot line adjustment or something like that?
That's part of the action for tonight's item. One of the entitlement that includes in the project is the vesting tentative map, which merges the 3 lots, and also creates condominium units.
Okay.
But merging the 3 lots is part of the action for tonight's item.
Okay, I guess I missed that in the packet because I know we've looked at this in the past, or I think I must have been here the last time around, and I didn't remember that it was currently multiple lots. So anyway, okay.
Commissioner Williams, may I interrupt you for a moment? I just realized we did not open public comment. I know our old procedure was to ask clarifying questions first, but our new procedure is to do public comment and then do clarifying questions.
Sure.
So I think we should go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone who is here in person who wishes to provide a public comment, please turn in your yellow speaker slip now. And anyone who is watching over Zoom and wishes to give a comment, please raise your hand now. Heleva, do we have any requests for public comment?
Through the chair, we have 2 public commenters via Zoom. We'll begin with Mike Nash. I'll go ahead and set the timer. Mike, you may unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the presentation, and I'm happy to see that we're developing that lot. I am the president of the Baywood Neighborhood Association. We've recently done a survey of everyone in Baywood, and one of their primary concerns is the parking situation, specifically people who park in residential areas who are work commuters. So I'd ask that in considering this development, that some thought be put into making sure that we don't have add to that problem of parking. And I note that there's a very nice parking lot right across the street on 2nd Avenue. Maybe there's a deal that can be cut so people will park there instead of in front of someone's house. Secondly, I applaud the effort to try and blend in with the architecture. I'd like to see that emphasized. The number one thing that people expressed as what they liked about Baywood was the way it was built, the architecture, the way it felt to walk around. And I think we need to do things to preserve that for the future. So I would make those comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And our second public commenter, Jacqueline, you may also unmute yourself. The timer is set for 3 minutes.
Yes, hello, this is Michael Grubb. Can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you, Michael.
Okay. This proposed development on the corner of El Camino East and Third Avenue is faulting at least two ways. One already mentioned is the parking. It's grossly inadequate. And the second problem is the ingress and egress from the building onto Third Avenue is very dangerous. Having only 16 parking spaces for 28 units is ridiculous. The owners are not going to pay to use the Second Street garage and walk over from there down the stairs and across the street. Instead, they will try to park on the street where there is already inadequate parking. People visiting the library, residents of nearby condominiums, and overflow from downtown already crowds Third Avenue and El Camino. Workmen who come to the condominiums along Third Avenue often have difficulty parking and finding a parking space and have to park blocks away. Royal Court is already always full. There's been no mention of where the people who work in this commercial offices is going to park and where are the people who will visit these commercial offices going to park. Few people in San Mateo take the bus. If you stand and watch those large buses go up and down El Camino, most of them are mostly empty most of the time. California is a car culture, and 28 condominium units will result in probably at least 40 cars vying for 16 parking spaces. In addition, the cars that are coming out onto Third Avenue will come in a very dangerous spot as people barrel up from East Third Avenue across El Camino, going up into the neighborhoods of West Third, and they also whip around the corner from El Camino and turn right. And there's definitely going to be car accidents if that happens. The thing about the style, the gentleman mentioned something about being respectful. Well, how can contemporary design be respectful of historical and traditional style of new buildings? Having an open corner there is not a bad thing. The consultant's coming up with 176 new trips. Who's paying them? Who's going to believe that? Finally, what's the point of the town having all these regulations if the developer can then say, oh, we want to do on-street loading, we're going to violate the open space requirements, we're going to violate setbacks, and we're going to violate the style of the neighborhood? How can the planning department approve this if they're supposed to be representing the people of the city? And
Thank
how
you,
can the
sir.
planning-
That is your time. Thank you for your comment. Haleva, do we have any more public commenters?
Through the chair, there are no others.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period. Commissioner Williams, please continue with your clarifying questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have a number of questions actually. And I'm going to skip to the one about parking because I know that's kind of a concern of some people. So I want to just clarify what I see in the plans. And I see that the mechanical, and I guess I just want confirmation of this, or, you know, it's a bit of a question, but I see that there's mechanical parking and there's 6 bays, so that times 2 is 12 parking spaces.
It's actually 11.
That's what it said, okay.
So one of the important things that we have to work with the city on and work with staff on is making sure that any type of mechanical parking is accessible by the residents without any special training or additional valet service. And so this system is set up. So there's a total of 11 stalls. And basically, the stalls on the bottom are allowed to move back and forth
Oh, okay. So you
to
have-
allow the stalls from up above to come down as a car is retrieved. And so it's a very simple system that the residents get trained on when they come aboard. And again, all they have to do is go in and put a code of which stall is theirs. The car comes down and they can back out.
Okay.
And so that's how we get to the 11 cars as part of that.
Okay, thank you. That's sort of like you have to leave a blank space, I guess, for the shifting. Okay,
Absolutely.
got it. I'm always a huge advocate for ADA accessibility, so I can't believe I'm asking this, but is a handicap space, I understand that if you only need one, it has to be a van accessible, but do you need a handicap space here for residential?
We still do, and we still did provide the one accessible
Yeah.
van space on there. We also provide an accessible EV space in the site. So yes, because this type of mechanical parking is such that the driver is driving the vehicle themselves into the spot, that doesn't count as an accessible spot because they need the loading zone and everything else
Right.
beyond it. That's why we have an accessible spot,
Okay.
van spot separate.
Okay, so, and then your EV spaces, like typically I know commercially, they can't be considered a parking space if it's a charging station.
So basically,
this
it's basically the same way. Technically, it's still considered a spot for our count, and some of it also, again, as a residential unit, because they're all dedicated to residential. It's depending on who's there and how it's rented out and what it's needed for at the time. So, in that it's not counted as a spot, in that you don't have to factor it in for your accessible count, is the way it works. It's still considered a spot in terms of total parking available.
Okay, and I know, like commercially or in a public parking lot, if you have a charging space, that doesn't count like you can't park your car there for the whole day, or, there's restrictions on that in a public setting, but here. maybe
It's slightly
it's
different in private as well as in residential. So there's a little bit, again, we're providing it. It's again, all the parking, basically, as you know, the AB 2097 allows us to provide zero parking. What the Alex chose to do is provide as much parking as was feasibly possible on the site. Once you provide any parking, we need to meet all the requirements between ADA and EV. Some of it is also contingent on who is renting and what is being used as far as how that spot is used. But it meets the EV requirements. It can be utilized as a space. It's all part of how that.
It can be a parking space.
Yes.
Okay, not like a public space that's just a charging space. So,
Correct.
okay, so that was my question on that. And then, let's see, what else? Okay, I had a question about the glassy space on the roof. So the corner glassy element goes up, it meets your roof or your, I don't know, the top
The
element.
canopy, it goes
Canopy,
beyond, it
yeah.
extends above that.
And then there's glass above that. I don't know if you want to pull up an elevation, but I'm wondering what that is. It doesn't. Oh yeah, it does show there.
So, it's a number of things. It is simply an extension of the glass. At that point, it becomes just a parapet wall, not unlike other elements around the building. One of the elements we were looking to develop on that corner, responding to the objective design standards, is a tower-like element. We feel that the corner of 3rd and El Camino is important to the project. It's why we took special care, interpreted it that way. That's why our entry is off of 3rd, taking it off of that. By taking this glass tower up, extending it up, it creates a little of that verticality, highlights that corner. It's essentially just an extension of the parapet. It just happens to be glass up at that level.
Okay, that's a good time to follow up with my question for staff. How much in a setting like this? How much input or comments in our comments later after deliberation? Like, how much are we allowed to provide design comments? Like, if we like something or don't like something. Is that our role still here? Or, are we, I mean, I guess I should be asking this offline or something, but I feel like there are times when, we have many state laws that don't allow us to make comments on things. And I'm just curious, are we allowed to still provide our thoughts on these things? I mean, I'm not here during the question time, but during my comments.
The Plan Commission is allowed to have a discussion with the applicant to talk about design and so forth and so on. The thing that the Plan Commission may want to consider is, like, at the end of the day, how are you going to vote on the application? And as the Plan Commission has done on a previous project, the Plan Commission can provide additional flexibility beyond what's proposed as part of the project. If there are concerns that relate to health and safety, that's a different type of question, and staff can answer specific questions around that.
Okay. Okay, I mean, just preparing for later for my comments for what I, but I did.
I'll add to that, you know, I think the way that we've considered this in the past, given these state laws, is that we as a body can ask, but we cannot require.
Yes, okay, thank you.
And I think on top of that, if we ask, it has to be the ability for them to change that in this proposed development has to be incorporated into the resolution and what we're voting on, right? Yes. Like with the tiles that one time where we had to sort of add that flexibility.
Yes.
So if it's like, please remove that giant glass thing on top, I'm not sure, you know, that
Okay,
you can build in that type of flexibility at this point.
okay.
And may I
so-
just say that if any tweaks or modifications to the resolution are made, we'll ask for the applicant to verbally provide their consent to those modifications and to make sure that there is no undue coercion or any type of, you know, it has to be voluntary. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and you know, I mean, I'm cognizant that if it meets if staff feels it meets ODS and it's, you know, meeting the requirements, then, you know, we can't deny it. So, okay, so that's helpful. Thank you. I wanted to clarify that. Let's see if there's anything else. I mean, I guess these are pretty minimal. Let's see. I guess, I mean, I have one other really minor comment. It's just kind of bothering me to know what it is. So on the the other elevation, the rear elevation, there is, the plans were great. I really liked how it showed, you know, a section of the plan, and then there was an elevation, and it was really, they were well done. I appreciated being able to see, you know, each window placement. And so there's one place where it looks like a window in what would be a bathroom on the other side of the building, not the El Camino side. And yet I don't think it is, and I'm just curious what it is.
You're right. Obviously, we're not going to put windows into bathrooms. That would be really irresponsible design on our part. And I don't know that Alex could sell the units if we did that. No, those what we've done with the design, and again, a lot of this design evolved as we worked with staff and received comments and worked back and forth with the standards. Understandably, it's obviously a much more modern building, but we did work very closely to address those. One of the things that is important and required is layering and articulation. And so what we have, and you can even see, I think she's actually looking for the facade from the backside.
Yeah, the one that's opposite El Camino.
Is we have the layers of the cement plaster stucco, and then we also have a layer of the metal panel, which is the more gray material. So it's creating the layers and variation depth along the facade. And you can even see on this rendering we're speaking of those windows that are the narrow slot, and I won't say windows, the narrow slot recesses in that metal panel. Mm-hmm. And what those are really that. It's creating depth, it's creating recess, it's picking up on some of the forms that we have throughout the building, but that actually just opens back to the cement plaster. So it's showing the layering, it's creating that depth and shadow without actually putting a window there.
Okay, thanks. That's what I was assuming, but I wasn't sure. Thank you. I think that's generally all I have.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I can clarify my response to the first question, I got a message from our public works staff. So I just want to clarify the lot merger, the action for tonight for lot merger, it's for a tentative map, and it still needs to go to council for the final map, which usually is done during the building permit. Just want to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Williams, do you have any other questions?
No, that's all I have.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Commissioner Bush, Commissioner Klefter?
Yeah, I have just
Great.
a few. One question is a much bigger picture question that I just haven't learned yet since being on the commission. But for our below market rate inclusionary ordinance, or whatever you would call it, regulation, is that a requirement that any new housing has to have a minimum 15% as opposed to the density bonus law, which is an incentive to do that? Okay, I'm seeing nods, yes, for anyone who can't see the nods. Okay, I was just curious. So in
For
some
projects
ways,
10 units or larger.
okay, got it, thank you. So in some ways, we're like that BMR inclusionary ordinance encourages use of the density bonus law. Okay, thanks.
Could I just clarify that the state density bonus law is for 5 units or larger too?
Okay, got it. So there's a little bit of a mismatch. Thank you. And then there's some 1,000+ square footage of open space. Where is that, and what's like the criteria that it has to meet to be classified as open space?
So for open space, anything on the lot that has not built out by the building or it's not occupied by the driveway or parking, that would be considered as open space. And as you see on this map, I think the dashed lines are the property lines and the thicker line is the building line. So anything beyond the thicker line, which is the building line, would be considered as open space.
Anything between the dashed line and the thicker building line is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
okay. And it's not a requirement that it be publicly accessible open space. It's just that it be open.
Correct, yes.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you. Are all the units in the building going to be condos, like all part of the same condo set unit, HOA, whatever you would
Yes,
call it?
it's meant to be a condo, and all are for sale units, yes.
And I have no idea if this is something you think about at this stage, or if like the eventual operator thinks about it. But are the condo owners going to own a parking space, or is it like some sort of, like in my old apartment, it was just kind of like you could park wherever, but you got one type of thing?
I will have to defer to Alex on how he's intending to manage the parking and how that will go with the sale of the units.
Okay. I was just curious how that functions. Those were my only questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Klafter?
Yes, thank you both for the presentations. Really good. I just had a couple of questions. One question I was kind of curious about. I just wanted to maybe because with the site and where the parking is, and you have Third on the one side and you have Arroyo Court on the other side. And I was just curious about the how the decision was made to have the parking exiting out onto Third, because I imagine you had an option. You could have, in theory, gone the other way. And I was just curious about how that came about.
Understandable. It was actually a lot of part of the process. I think at one point we did have it exiting on a Third, and actually Public Works requested we move it to, on Arroyo, and Public Works asked us to move it to Third. So it was a balance. It was we did look at it from an operational standpoint, from a traffic flow standpoint, as well as trying to respond to staff requests and respond to the different ways this is going to be serviced. And so it was kind of working back and forth with staff that we eventually landed on the Third Avenue side.
Great. And then I had a question about the retail space. What kinds of tenants might be envisioned for that space?
What we want is to provide a very flexible space. It's as you can see, it's about 1,500 square feet. It's not a large space. One of the things is the nice thing about the general plan and what's allowed there is it gives us some flexibility that Alex can market it different ways, whether it becomes a small boutique retail space, selling goods, or it's a small commercial space with, say, a law firm or something else. It gives us that flexibility. We do have the natural advantage because of the height we had to put in to get the mechanical parking. It gives us a higher volume of space than you would oftentimes get on a first floor. So there is an attractiveness to that, whether it becomes, again, office or true retail. So we think because of its location directly adjacent to the downtown, we think it is an attractive location for a variety of uses, and we tried to provide as much flexibility there as we could in the amount of glass we provided and the frontage and their entry points.
Great. And I had one other question about the those corner units, the glass in the glass there, and I was thinking about privacy and how that kind of the thing that has there been some work already on like how that will be screened?
Well, and one of the things we oftentimes do with residential units in general, and especially something like this where you're taking advantage of a glass corner, is perhaps say instead of doing top down type of blinds or screens, you do bottom up. And so you could do something that's slightly, and it's not necessarily fully opaque, but what it gives is it allows you to bring those blinds up or that screening up, still allow natural light in, provide vision in and out with doing that. So those are some of the things we will take into account on those units in particular to provide some of that to give, because there are going to be some people and some times that are going to want them completely open. I mean, it's going to be a great view. It's going to be a dynamic space, and to have that in that corner, and even honestly, even driving by at night, if those units are lit up, I mean, there's going to be some interest there, and that's one of the things. And I think you guys always challenge us to do active frontages on the ground floor, and that's obviously really important to the pedestrian experience in downtown, and we always strive to do that. One of the interesting things I think this has an opportunity to do is providing that glass corner that all of a sudden gives us a little bit of a view into some activity potentially into a residential unit that's not, I mean, if this was an office tower at night, it may have minimal lighting on it because we always want to reduce lighting. We don't want to have lights on. I mean, our sensors in our offices now, unless there's somebody in it, the lights are going to be off. This is going to have activity at different times, so I think it's going to create a different view, but we can still provide that privacy that's needed without it necessarily being fully opaque.
Yeah, I have bottom up window shades written in my notes here, so that was exactly what I was thinking. So thank you. I have some additional comments, but I think those are all of my questions at the moment.
Any other questions? I see Commissioner Bush.
Yes, I meant to ask, right now, the about the egress and the ingress of the parking deck. Right now, the lane traveling west on 3rd, right in front of the parking entrance, is a like a merge lane from 3rd Avenue, I think is how you would describe that. I was just curious, are we changing the, is there any intention by Public Works to change the that lane in any way? Or will it continue to be a merged lane, just a little shorter than I guess it currently is?
Through the chair, I would defer that to our Public Works staff, Ryan, on the call.
Hello, my name is Ryan Brunmeyer. I'm an associate engineer with the Public Works Department. This project is not implementing any changes. However, our CIP group is, I believe, currently in the process of designing a pavement rehabilitation project for this segment of 3rd Avenue, in which they may be making some lane modifications to accommodate a new bike lane on this segment of 3rd Avenue. And so we made the decision to leave it as is for now, and any changes would be made through that city project, which is currently in design.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Great. I have one question that I will add. So, reading from the state density bonus letter that you submitted, the letter noted that state density bonus law provides that when a project includes a certain percentage of affordable housing, it is eligible for a density bonus, a limited number of concessions from otherwise applicable development standards that would result in cost reductions for the project, and unlimited waivers from development standards that would physically preclude the construction of the project as proposed. So our objective design standards require that buildings in the downtown core implement a Spanish colonial revival architectural style. And in the letter, the project is requesting a waiver from that Spanish colonial revival architectural style in order to allow a contemporary and modern architectural style for the building. So my question is, why would a Spanish colonial revival architectural style physically preclude the construction of this project?
So one of the challenges with and respecting, again, I was, said we were respecting the Casa Baywood adjacent to it. One of the things with the way the way architecture is done and built today is in order to truly build a very high quality and well done, Mediterranean style that fits in that, it's actually a much more cost prohibitive level to get to the level of detail and level of style that would truly work with that Casa Baywood. One of the challenges you have is, unfortunately, because of the methods of construction and because of what's out there, it's very difficult to achieve a truly high quality level of architecture that really truly respects that design. And in order to achieve that, that was what we were looking at, and we're not trying to cut corners. We do not feel that this building is being designed poorly or going to be constructed poorly, but in order to get the window lines and the level of light and what the target was and for the target market, we did not feel like we could achieve that in the same cost-effective structure to bring this project to market and meet the target market that we're going for in this project and that the client was requesting.
Okay, thank you. I could understand that style would come at a higher cost, but I heard you discuss a lot about respecting the architecture of the surrounding environment. And I know when those objective design standards were created, it was a very intentional decision to pay homage to the history of the downtown core and to try and incentivize more Spanish colonial architectural styles and buildings moving forward. But thank you for answering the question.
Okay.
That was my only question. Do we have any other questions, or shall we open it for deliberation? All right. Would anyone like to go first with their comments? I always look at you, Commissioner Williams, so I'm going to look at Commissioner Bush.
She unmuted. She saw me. Yeah, I can go first. I have a number of thoughts about it. I was on the Planning Commission, I think the last go round, because I have seen the site at some point. And so I'm happy to see something moving forward here. But I recall really pushing for parking. I don't know, that was a big issue. But it was really clear after we had that discussion, whatever it was, 2019 or something, that this site is literally too small for parking. The fact that you've accomplished some parking is great. Otherwise, like to put underground parking in, I was kind of pushing for that, I think, if I couldn't find my notes, but if I was recalling. And, to get the correct, parking size requirements, meet those requirements per code, have a ramp down and up, and it was basically not feasible. I think that discussion kind of made that clear. And so I do think that, I'm often concerned about parking because I agree people do still have cars, but if anywhere this one, works, that there is additional parking here, or there is some parking here. So I think, I commend you for that because you don't have to provide any, and it is really right in town. So, so I think that's satisfactory. The other comment I'll make is about the Spanish colonial. I feel like it doesn't seem like the right corner to require it, frankly. I love Casa Baywood, but really the prominent structures are really kind of mid-century, I guess, or I don't know, sort of 60s modern. I love the bank building across the street, and the two other buildings across El Camino kind of relate to each other and create a entry to that part of Third. So I feel like it creates a pretty good corner for that intersection. It's unique, as is the bank building, and the bank building has that wonderful, colorful mural, as we were talking about tile earlier. I think that it relates pretty nicely to the library, which is another building I really love. And yet that's a simpler building, which I appreciate as well. So I don't think the Spanish colonial is something that's really critical in this particular lot, this particular site. Yes, it's next door to Casa Baywood, but I almost feel like if we tried to do Spanish colonial right next door to this beautiful, really what's this beautiful historic building, it would sort of I don't know, diminish Casa Baywood or something, or it would be diminished in light of Casa Baywood next to it or something. So I kind of like the idea that it's something quite different. I think at first I was kind of thinking the glass corner was a lot, but I think that location can handle it, and it is part of the ODS. I don't think the glass parapet is necessary. I think that you're still creating this, corner element, this really glassy space, and maybe I'm not even sure that it's that noticeable actually from the pedestrian point of view or even the driving point of view. So I don't think that glass parapet piece is necessary in my opinion. So let's see. The only other comment I guess I would make is that I think that elevation is, I really like the building. I think it's small, and yet it's accomplishing a lot on this site that is pretty hard to deal with. And I think that elevation has a lot going on. I almost wonder, I think I would prefer it if it just had the white, I think that's the smooth stucco across, and not the metal. And again, I think it works well the way it is, but if I'm providing my opinions, I think there's a lot going on that particular elevation, and it could be one less element there. What else? I think those were really generally my comments. I mean, I think in my questions, I kind of covered parking, and the packet was very complete. I had questions about the shadow study, but really it's a 12-story building next door, so that's, I don't think that really is a concern that you're meeting the shadow study requirements. There was a comment, I do have a couple things in my brain. There was a comment from the public about the trees, and I went and looked at the trees today, and it's like, you're maintaining the existing ones as much as possible. I hope it works. I know we've seen some projects where they don't really survive the process that well. But you've widened the sidewalk, so there's room there for street trees, and I'd really think that is important. So, I think everything's addressed. I like the project. Thank you.
Commissioner Klafter?
So first off, I'll say, I, having lived here for many, many, many years and driving by first the gas station and then, of course, the vacant lot. And it's nice to see this location finally having something worthy of it, be proposed here. And it will complete that intersection. I remember when the other two buildings across the street, there were also, gas stations and then vacant lots. And so, this really been a dramatic and transformation for the better, with some really great businesses and now some homes. Also nice to see some condos being constructed. We've seen a lot of rental projects. Had a couple things In terms of the architecture, I think I agree with Commissioner Williams in terms of the style. You know, I understand the applicant's rationale, you know, to really create a high quality Spanish colonial style building on that site might be difficult given the constraints of the site and everything else. And in some ways, you know, if you're trying to compete with something like Casa Baywood, you know, it makes it even doubly difficult because it's such a fantastic, locally, you know, recognizable building in that style. And so the contrast may be okay there. And then also the comment about, you know, they have the Bank of America building across the street and some other kind of 60s modern stuff around it. So I think that'll be all right. I have a thing about, I was going to get my comments here. I had written down, I have a thing about heritage trees. I appreciate that at least 2 of the heritage trees are going to be, you know, hopefully shepherded through this process all right. I took a look at the arborist report. I know that part of it involves, you know, site visits and working with the city at key moments, you know, during excavation. And the arborist report calls for, you know, specific types of aggregate and a little bit of hand excavation potentially. And in light of, you know, a really unfortunate loss of a heritage tree over on South Claremont recently, didn't quite make it through the construction process. I'm hoping that these will make it through. I do have some concerns about that little retail space, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Hopefully we'll find some tenants on that busy section of El Camino there. I did want to highlight one thing in particular, though, and I think we do have a little bit of room to you know, get some input on this actually, which is specifically the sidewalks. I just noticed, you know, I appreciate that the sidewalks are going to be widened. There was a public comment about how that side of the intersection is a little bit dangerous. It's a very narrow sidewalk at the moment. I like the new kind of wider area there. I just think that the way that the new sidewalk meets the older sidewalk as you progress up 3rd is a little bit awkward at the moment. I think if you brought up the project description page, you know, just the way that the brick and the new wider sidewalks sort of kind of dead ends into the tower property. And I had asked a question about that earlier of Simon, and the answer that I got was that Public Works may refine that.
That's correct, yeah. Usually during building permit.
Yeah, and I think your answer was specifically that they might remove part of the brick and place like a section of concrete there. I still feel like there might be some opportunity to make it more elegant than that, because it's not going to be, unless the, you know, there's very unlikely, unless there's discussion about ripping out the hedge in front of the neighboring tower project, which I assume is never going to happen. It's always going to be that transition from the wider section to the narrower section. And so I feel like if there was a way to kind of maybe have like a diagonal line or something where the kind of the sidewalk sort of narrows towards that condition, maybe just like increasing the planting bed or something like that. And I imagine, I'm hoping that's something that the applicant and Public Works can work on to kind of create a nice, elegant solution there. I mean, I was even thinking about, you know, like if you have like these material transitions and things, and you have someone who's vision impaired or someone who's in a wheelchair or something like that, and you have like, you just really want to make sure that that's like, you know, kind of obvious as you're walking there and moving through that. So, and you know, it's going to be there for a long, long time. So I just would say to really think about that transition and also on the Arroyo Court side too. It's the same question. And then I just wanted to throw in a little comment. This is kind of a broader thing. I feel like this project, the scale of it, is kind of going to be our San Mateo poster child for a little bit for something that I think we should all be thinking about, which is, and I hope that the city will, people in town and stuff will start thinking about this thing called single stair. I feel like a building of this size, if you look at the relationship of the two staircases, the two fire stairs near each other, there's been some discussion at the state level about smaller residential buildings potentially being allowed to go down to just one fire-rated stair rather than two. And that, there have been some studies at the state level and some other discussions. And I think we're going to be seeing more developments of this size. And if you can go down to one fire-rated stair, you can, oftentimes get better floor plans, you can get more units, you can build more economically. So feel like this is a building that might have benefited from that had it been an option. So, and we, with new state laws, we may be seeing more small-scale developments, and it can result in more money. The savings from not having to add that stair can result in more money for Spanish colonial revival architecture, potentially. So that was just something that was on my mind as I was looking at this. And I think those are all of my comments. So thank you.
Commissioner Bush.
Great, thanks. Well, as the greenest member of the Planning Commission, it's fun to learn what things my fellow planning commissioners see that I don't think about. And not to do a play on words on green, but I haven't yet gotten to the point where I look at the trees as much, and I'm excited to start thinking more about trees in these projects. I do, though, think about the wildflowers that currently live on that vacant lot that have been there since 2014, which is the year I moved to San Mateo. So it's very exciting to think about that lot getting a project like this. And I'll miss the wildflowers, but I feel like this is probably a better fit. Yeah, exactly. They're almost here, and since you're not starting yet, I'll get a couple, maybe one more year with them. But I think this is like the perfect kind of mixed use too. I mean, it's really exciting to see condos for ownership, but also a little retail space to kind of continue to add opportunity in the downtown for those. And on that side of El Camino, which there's not a ton of little retail shops on that side. So I think that's exciting, and I hope like Commissioner Clafter, that there's success finding a good tenant there. I heard both commenters and some of the comments we received before the meeting are talking about parking, and I know staff have done a really great job of kind of emphasizing this over and over again, but we can't require any parking. And I think actually, the fact that the developer is putting in parking and in collaboration with our staff, it feels like that just speaks to the relationship that our staff have with developers, and developers thinking about what's going to be best for the tenants and what's going to be best for the neighborhood. And so, love to see at least some parking in these projects, and appreciate the efforts to do that, especially this kind of unique creative solution here to that problem. I echo Chair Patel's questions about the waivers for architectural style, for some of the other little minutia, and would just encourage you and other developers in the future. I think I definitely read that density bonus letter like front to back from the developer. I find it really helpful, and so the more details like you can provide about the costs that would be imposed and things like that, I think is really helpful for understanding why really it is necessary for the project to move forward. I think that would be helpful. And then my only other comment is just on the egress and ingress. I had a comment on this on the last project. I have a few concerns about this particular location for egress. Mostly, I just am concerned that people are going to try to cross all 5 lanes to turn right onto El Camino. But I'm not. It is what it is now. But I just glad to hear that Public Works is going to be thinking about this location and how maybe to make this ingress and egress as safe as possible in light of the activity at the intersection, particularly moving west on 3rd. So, but with that, I think it seems like a great project.
Any other comments, or shall I go next? Go for it.
Just looking at the plan again, and I actually realized I had one more question about not the mechanical parking space. This is for the applicant, not the mechanical parking spaces, but the ground parking spaces facing towards the rear of the property there. I noticed it said that there's several which are marked as EV ready. Are you just going to be having are you going to have conduits or things kind of in place for future charging stations?
Yes, the intent with the EV ready, again, it's meeting the standards that the city has set, is the infrastructure, both the power provided to the site as well as conduit to allow those to be future installed at a time that is requested by, again, in something like this, if it's a specific owner that comes in and wants an EV space, that would be the type of time we would install that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Is that like a Cal Green terminology, I think? Or, the building code terminology that, I feel like it's sort of seen its time, and that should evolve into no longer EV ready, because I've had that on projects where that was what was required. And it's you practically put in all the requirements anyway, so why not just put this, whatever else is the output?
It is. Now, again, so it is a Cal Green standard. It's also, and the city of San Mateo has now, with the REACH codes, is adjusted to, and the increase in Cal Green requirements is defaulted back to Cal Green requirements. And so there's a few differences. It is still differentiated in Cal Green. Again, there's slight differences in terms of, commercial buildings versus residential, how that applies. I think there's still, this encompasses a lot of things beyond this project, including providing power to these sites, and the fact that we can't get the power we need from PG&E, and providing more of it for, anyway, not to get off subject, but it's still a requirement. We're still providing it. Again, we have the ability to add those. There are some municipalities that have increased it, and basically everything is EV charging. It's going a lot of different directions.
It's a slightly out of date requirement. They should just put the EV in.
Understood.
In the code anyway. Okay, sorry about that. Interrupt.
No worries. All right, my list of comments. Just first, piggybacking off of some other comments I heard about those corner glass units, I actually think those units are great and an amazing feature for that building. I can imagine, I don't know, it might be my personal preference, but that those units will be the most desirable, because what a fantastic view of downtown. I would definitely be the person who would have all the shades open at night and just people watching.
Well, and they also
in the
face
downtown.
southeast, which is amazing for light. So.
Yeah, and completely, I had the same thought as the applicant, which is I think it's going to add a buzz and activity to that section of downtown at night, that when you're walking around or when you're driving around, to see the movement in the building will make that part of the town feel more alive than it does today. So I'm very excited to see those come online. In terms of some other comments I have, so this project is 28 units. When 38 are allowed under the current zoning. And if the state density bonus law had been maximized, there was a potential for 76 units on this site. And when I look at this site and its location, steps from downtown, half a mile to a Caltrain station, this is the perfect location for high density housing, which is why it was zoned mixed use high. And so I'm a little bit sad that there's not more housing on this site. There's a previous version of the density bonus letter from November 2025, because like you, I read the density bonus letters front to back, where initially there was a request to increase the residential density, and it said, in furtherance of the city's housing element and RENA goals, while also being sensitive to the scale of development in the area. And when I read that sentence, it gave me pause, because this is next to a 12-story building. And this planning commission is often in the position where we see projects that are much taller than an adjacent building. And there's a lot of concern about the impact of a taller building on existing shorter ones. And I think this is the first time in my 5 years that I've seen the opposite, where there's an existing 12-story building and there's a proposal for something much smaller. Like other people have noted, this is 1 to 2 blocks from Casa Baywood, from Versailles, from the 14-story Rommel building, and another proposed 14-story building. And I heard it in the presentation, it was in the agenda report of this intersection being referred to as a major gateway into the city's downtown. And when I think about the way that we have now zoned this land under our general plan, and I think we're up to 18 applications in since Measure T passed, most of the applications that are coming in are in that 8-story plus region. And I worry that 10 to 20 years from now, this is going to be the small building in the area, and that this intersection is not going to feel like a major gateway into downtown. It's going to kind of feel like maybe the back door into downtown. So my personal opinion is a bit of a little bit of, I guess, regret that the highest and best use of this land is not being realized or maximized, and a little bit concerned of what this area is going to look like long term with this site and its context. That said, this project is protected by the Housing Accountability Act, and we can ask, but we cannot require. And I agree with the staff that it has met all of the requirements of local and state law. I also want to call out that we are in desperate need of missing middle ownership opportunities. And so I'm very excited, I think, for the first time since I've lived in San Mateo, to see a new condo building come into the town. So that is amazing. And I think these units are going to get snapped up so fast. So thank you for that. Any other comments from my fellow commissioners? If not, can we get the resolution text back on the screen? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving the site plan and architectural review, site development planning application, and vesting tentative map for the construction of a new mixed-use building with 1,572 square feet of commercial area and 28 residential condominium units located at 230 South El Camino, Real, and find that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15332, infill development projects based on the findings for approval and subject to conditions of approval.
Second.
However, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Chair Clafter,
Yes.
Commissioner Bush,
Yes.
Chair Patel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you so much. We will go ahead and close this item. And the next item on our agenda, reports and announcements. Do we have any reports or announcements from our staff or the city attorney?
No reports, thank you.
Amazing. Do we have any reports or announcements from our fellow commissioners?
If I may, I did know if anybody here saw this, but I would bring attention to the article in the San Mateo Daily Journal the other day talking about how there are over 6,000 units.
I saw that too.
In our pipeline, which is amazing, all in the last year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw an announcement this afternoon of a new proposal to construct a 396 unit building on the Safeway site at El Camino. And yeah, big things seem to be getting proposed all the time now. It's exciting.
Very exciting.
Are there any, is there anything in the pipeline for grocery stores to replace that? Do we know?
We cannot discuss that project at this time, but I would say that you should read the San Mateo, or no, Business Journal article about that project.
I saw saw something about it, so.
Do we have any upcoming meetings on the books yet?
Let's see who can pull it up quicker.
While they do that, just pitching. I think last time I mentioned there was a comprehensive zoning code update survey online. I think the survey may have closed. I'm not 100% sure, but there are some white papers that go with the survey that I have found very informative. That Hulava very kindly printed for me. They're like 10 pages on different 6 different areas that the comprehensive zoning update is considering, and I just wanted to plug here that both to y'all and to the public that they're fascinating reads.
Amazing. Sounds right up my alley.
Through the chair. So the next Planning Commission meeting on March 24th, we tentatively have 715 North San Mateo coming to the Planning Commission.
Great.
And just so you all, I've let staff know, but I won't be there for that meeting.
Well, if there's nothing else, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. See you next time.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.